Welcome back. It's Finance Friday, another special edition of Money Girl where I answer your burning money questions. Today's topic comes from Leanne, who says, "My husband and I recently bought a condo and got insurance recommended by our mortgage lender. But when I reviewed it, I was surprised to find that it only covers a maximum of $1,000 for jewelry. If we have jewelry and watches worth much more, should we get jewelry insurance or a personal articles policy?" Thank you for your question, Leanne. I'm really glad you reviewed your home insurance and want to protect your belongings. This podcast will review what possessions are covered in a standard home or condo insurance policy and how to purchase more coverage when needed. Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 935 of Money Girl. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. I'm Laura Adams, an award-winning author, spokesperson, speaker, and founder of The Money Stack. That's my Substack newsletter. You can learn more, ask money questions, and sign up for The Money Stack at lauradadams.com. You can subscribe to the newsletter for free or support the show as a paid member and get access to live educational events. So let's get to the heart of Leanne's question. The bottom line is that when you purchase standard homeowners insurance, which is known as an HO3 policy, or a condo policy, which is called an HO6 policy, it covers your personal belongings, but up to certain limits after you pay a deductible. So that's the part of your insurance that's called contents coverage. The problem is contents coverage may not cover everything you own, not even close in some cases. So I'm really glad that Leanne asked about the best way to get more personal property coverage, especially for her valuable jewelry and watches. If you have a standard homeowners policy, the contents coverage is usually a percentage of your dwelling coverage. Now, the dwelling coverage is the physical structure of your home, the actual building, as well as any outbuildings like garages that you might have on the property. For instance, if you have $300,000 in dwelling coverage, your personal property coverage might be in the range of 20%, maybe up to 50% of that amount. Therefore, your total coverage could range from $60,000, maybe up to $150,000, depending on the specifics of the policy you choose. Most standard homeowners policies cover your personal property against named perils. So that means your possessions could be repaired or replaced if something happens that is specifically named in your policy. So it could be something like theft, vandalism, fire, lightning, smoke, windstorm, hail, or rain. And another often overlooked benefit of home insurance is that your belongings are insured anywhere in the world up to certain limits, and that's known as off-premises coverage. For example, if your jewelry, laptop, or camera gets stolen or damaged while you're on vacation or maybe storing them off-site, you generally have some coverage, again, if one of those named perils occurs. However, off-premises contents insurance is typically capped at a small percentage of your dwelling coverage. For instance, if you've got that $300,000 in dwelling coverage, you might have 10% of that for off-premises coverage. That means your maximum for personal property claims away from your home would be $30,000. But anything that happens in your home, would fall under the regular contents coverage. Now, Leanne is a condo owner, so her coverage for personal belongings is a little different. That's because when you own a condo or a townhome, the Homeowners Association typically purchases a master insurance policy that covers the building's exterior and any common areas. Unit owners are only responsible for what's inside their unit, what's inside the building, like the interior walls, and structural improvements like any appliances and kitchen cabinets, that sort of thing. Similar to homeowners, a condo policy includes contents coverage for your personal belongings after you meet a deductible. However, the amount is generally chosen by the unit owner rather than being a percentage of the entire multi-unit dwelling. Like a homeowner's policy, condo personal property coverage typically covers named perils like theft, fire, windstorm, and certain types of water damage like rain. It typically includes worldwide coverage for your personal belongings, similar to a homeowner's policy, with limits for off premises losses. Now, the big issue with homeowners insurance is that both a standard homeowners policy and a condo policy will have sub limits for categories of personal belongings. So, understanding them is essential for protecting your most valuable possessions. Let me give you some examples of items that typically have insurance sub limits. Jewelry and watches, they may be limited to just $1,000, like Leanne said, or maybe up to $2,500. Silverware and goldware may be limited to $2,500. Firearms may be limited to $2,500. Watercraft and trailers may be limited to $1,500. Business property on the premises may be limited to $2,500, maybe up to $5,000. Now, this is not a comprehensive list of possible sublimits or caps on those categories, so you want to refer to your insurance policy for details. But, my point here is to make sure that you understand that even with a high amount of personal property coverage, your sublimits could leave you extremely underinsured. Leanne didn't mention the value of jewelry and watches in her household, but let's say it's $10,000, and let's say she has a $1,000 deductible. If all of her jewelry and watches got stolen, the most she could receive after paying her $1,000 deductible is $1,000 because that's the cap. That's the sub limit on her policy. In other words, the sub limit for jewelry would leave her with $0. She'd pay $1,000 out of pocket, but then the insurance company would turn around and give her $1,000 because that's her sub limit. So she would basically get nothing for her jewelry. So if you have valuable belongings that exceed the sub limits of your homeowners or your condo insurance, you should definitely consider purchasing extra coverage. While you can purchase special insurance like a jewelry policy, which, Leanne mentioned, it's typically less expensive to get a personal article policy or PAP. A personal article policy allows you to list out or schedule individual items to ensure they're covered for their appraised value. You can include valuables like jewelry, furs, fine art, collectibles, musical instruments, silverware, sports equipment, and any other unique items or valuable items that are not typically covered by a standard home or condo insurance policy. Coverage in a personal articles policy typically gives you worldwide all risk or open perils coverage, which is much broader than just named perils coverage. So that's critical if you travel with expensive items that could be lost, damaged, or stolen. Whatever belongings you choose to insure, they'll be covered for damage or theft inside your home or in your car, at a storage facility, or in another country where you're vacationing. Again, they'll be covered anywhere in the world. Every insurance policy is different, so be sure to understand any peril exclusions that may not cover your items. For instance, a personal articles policy may not cover regular wear and tear or damage caused by pests. So if you do want to get a personal articles policy, it may cost about $1 for every $100 of coverage per year. For instance, if you need $50,000 of total coverage, a ballpark estimate could be about $500 per year. But since insurance costs vary, consider getting several estimates and comparing them. A big benefit of purchasing a personal articles policy is that it typically doesn't have a deductible. So if you file an approved claim, you receive the full amount without any out-of-pocket costs. You can opt for a personal articles policy to automatically adjust for inflation. So, it could increase the items that you have by, whatever percentage per year. However, it is wise to review your policy periodically and have any high-value items reappraised by a professional, allowing you to adjust your coverage as needed. In fact, that's something that I've been doing right now, kind of reviewing everything on my schedule for my personal articles policy. I have some things that are there, but I no longer own them. And I now own some things that I need to put on that schedule. So it's especially true, like if you get something nice as a holiday gift or birthday gift, something valuable, you want to make sure to include it on your policy. So, how do you get a personal articles policy? Leanne, I would recommend first creating a list of all your valuable belongings, including photos and estimates of their value. And if you don't have appraisals on your jewelry, that is something that insurance companies usually want to see. So you might want to go ahead, and get that in motion. But you probably have other valuables besides jewelry. I would recommend listing them out and then review your home or condo insurance policy to determine if you have sufficient coverage in those sub-limit categories and amounts. If you're like Leanne with jewelry or other valuables like guns, sporting equipment, electronics, or fine art that are worth significantly more than your home or condo coverage sub-limit, you likely need a personal articles policy. And you can get quotes from your existing home insurance company, or you can get quotes from other carriers and compare the annual premiums. Insuring personal items is a personal decision because some items you own, like an heirloom necklace that was passed down from your grandmother, can never really be replaced, right? Its market value may be significantly less than the sentimental value that you give it. If you're unsure whether to insure something valuable, ask yourself how you'd feel if it were lost, stolen, or destroyed. For instance, if you'd be upset about losing your wedding ring or your favorite watch, and you couldn't easily afford to replace it, consider scheduling it on a personal articles policy. Speak with an insurance representative or an insurance broker if you have questions, or any unique belongings that you want to cover from potential losses. Leanne, if your jewelry is the only belonging that exceeds your condo sublimit, it might be worthwhile to get a jewelry insurance quote as well. But most people find that they're underinsured in several categories. Maybe you've also got electronics or artwork that would exceed the limits, making a personal articles policy a better option. Leanne, thank you again for your question. I think you're definitely on the right track. You really just need to create an inventory of everything valuable. Make sure you understand what's covered and how much is covered, and then go out and get multiple quotes from different carriers to compare your options. Before we go, a quick reminder to subscribe to The Money Stack. That's my Substack newsletter. When you visit lauradadams.com, it's filled with money tips, tools, news, challenges, and things I enjoy. Subscribe for free or support the show as a paid member with access to live educational events. That's all for now. I'll talk to you soon. Until then, here's to living a richer life. Money Girl is a quick and dirty tips podcast. We've got a great team that works on the show. Steve Rickyberg audio engineers the podcast. Holly Hutchins is our director of podcast. Morgan Christensen is our advertising operations specialist. And Nathaniel Hoops is our marketing contractor.